Welcome to the Outliers Inn, produced by the Operational Excellence Society and sponsored by Zonatech Consulting Group International, with your hosts, Joseph Paris and David Schneider.
Welcome to another episode of the Outliers Inn. I'm one of your hosts, Joseph Paris, better known as JP, and with me today I have my illustrious co-host, Mule. How you doing today, Mule?
I'm doing very well. Been up and kicking it all day long.
You know, I actually woke up with a heightened level of energy today. I think it has to do with the fact that I was actually able to sleep in until about 8:30 today, compared to the dark 30 that I've been waking up on this project in Florida. They have this 7:10 production meeting every day, and that's rather bothersome. And of course, they open at like 6 o'clock. They start production, so I don't have to be there for the morning huddles, thankfully. But working for a living is kind of not all it's cracked up to be.
Well, that's what I was living through last fall when I was doing that fulfillment center out in Salt Lake City. Shift starts at 7. I needed to get in there at 6 to get things lined up. Because at the beginning of the project is when all of their management team there in the facility was out with COVID. And right. I ended up running the shop for a couple of weeks. And so had to be there every day. And that first day that I was in there, a couple of people showed up late for the shift. They didn't get to work. And they had a new sheriff in town. But yeah, I know what that getting up early is like. Thankfully, I had 2 hours of time zone difference on my body. So I was automatically getting up early enough to get in there.
Yeah,
so
well,
my body kept going, get up, dude.
To me, the only reason to get up that early is fishing and hunting. That's all there is to it. Yeah. Right before the session here, I got a phone call on my watch, and just recently I discovered that I could answer my watch, which was rather odd. But it was one of these people, from AT&T trying to sell me AT&T DirecTV. And of course, I'm in Germany, and I'm no interest in AT&T DirecTV. But I get a kick every once in a while. There's this rash of, and you see it on the internet, this rash of people trying to sell you car warranties. And every once in a while, because I'm bored and I feel like being the kid with the magnifying glass torturing ants, I let them go. And I'll tell them I have a VW Passat, and they'll tell me what year and blah blah blah, and we'll go down the old road. And I said, "Oh, by the way, it's in Frankfurt, Germany. Do you cover it there?" And it's like click.
Yeah. Yeah. I've had some experiences playing games with people. Sometimes I'll pretend to be a homicide detective, and they'll be asking for me, but I'll go, "Do you know this person? How do you know this person?" And then I'll start questioning. And then somewhere along the line, I'll find out where they're sitting. And no, give me an address. No, sir, you don't understand. I'm in the middle of a criminal investigation. You need to give me the address. And they'll cough up the address. And then that's when I'll off stage voice go, "Hey, call the Longmont, Colorado police. This is the guy's name. Here's the address. Tell them to go get him and detain him." And that usually gets the click.
That's awesome. As you can see, I got my co-pilot here on this project, Don, the beer man, sitting next to me. Speaking of beer man, cheers.
Not beer, but something else that's tasty.
So it is, afternoon here in Florida. So it's on a Saturday. So we're going to cut everybody some slack, right?
Mm-hmm. So, sure. We can cut slack. Yeah. I'm always good with cutting slack on that. I wished I was there to enjoy the beers with you, gentlemen.
Yeah, indeed. Maybe a marketing meeting sometime over the summer. We'll be able to do that.
What meeting?
Wonderful.
What meeting?
Sorry.
Is that the meeting
we're not supposed to talk to? Sorry about that. That's right. Man, I'm sorry about that. Yeah.
Don't break the rules.
Now the entire world is going to know about the marketing meeting.
No, they know nothing about it. They know nothing about it. But I'm wondering if some of our other guests here have any fun phone telemarketing stories. I heard somebody else
I had one of those calls from the Social Security Administration. Kept them on the phone for 20 minutes. I was proud of myself.
Yeah, that's just too funny. Everybody's got a scam going on, So, I got to share an opportunity I had this week to mentor. Okay. Cool. And there's this project that we're working on. And this one supervisor, admittedly is probably in over his head, but he was having some real serious challenges with, we'll call it task overload. You know what I mean? He was just being overwhelmed and pulled and pushed. And admittedly, and this is something that we have to guard against, I think, in business. People were already thinking that he's not capable. All right. So it's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy. If the senior management, the leadership over him, doesn't think he's capable, then they have this tendency not to invest in that individual and build them. And it's almost like a death spiral. You know what I mean? They're not getting the respect of the people below because they see that there's no support from the people above. And it gets worse and worse. So I took him out for lunch this week. And I gave him some mentorship, some coping skills. One of them was, instead of telling, ask questions. So instead of saying, "Oh, this part is defective," ask, "What's wrong with this part? Is this part a good part?" And then trying to get out of the people what the challenges were, instead of him, the onus being always on his shoulders, to try to pass it to the people that are around them and get them to engage in the problem solving, instead of him being the one that has to always come up with the answers. Unfortunately, or fortunately, there's two people on his team that have been there a while, and they think their shit don't stink. You know what I mean? And they're not going to play, and they're not going. And what happened was, when he actually used my technique the next day, predictably, because the rules of the game changed, they exploded, and they ended up being written up for insubordination. But the thing is, the team above him supported him in this case, because I was, communicating with them that, listen, you've got to support this guy. You can't just, let him, hang him out to dry. You got to actually, if you want him in this role, super. If you don't want him in this role, make that decision too. But don't let him just dangle. And changing the rules of the game oftentimes will be the pig down the pipe. It will be the one that the catalyst for people to panic because they've been in their comfort zone. So he handled it exceptionally well. I also reminded him of I think it was the movie Roadhouse. Be nice. Be nice. Yeah. When is the time not to be nice? Somebody will tell you when the time is to not be nice, but that's not you. So he really, really handled it well. And I circled back with him several times this week, a few times a day, just to make sure that, he's getting more settled. And by the end of the week, he was really, feeling much better in his position. Now, at the end of the day, will he end up being in that role, or maybe being a team lead instead of the supervisor? We'll see. But he was performing, and the results were much better by the end of the week. And most importantly, his stress level dropped dramatically, because it was no longer always and everything up to him. So I felt pretty good about that.
Yeah, it's, finding the resistance, and there's times where people resist for good cause, but most of the time the resistance is that you're either attempting to move their cheese, or you did move their cheese. Right. And it's an emotional thing with them. And when they lose their cool and show their emotion, that's that ends up being seen by everybody.
Right.
And they don't win any sympathy when that happens either.
Right.
So yeah, I mentor this high school robotics team, and I describe it as, imagine a company with 100+ employees, and they're all volunteers. Right. And you change the management team every year. The entire management team changes every year. So you change the executive level, you change all of the department managers, you change all the supervisors, everything changes. And it changes like clockwork.
Right.
And so we're doing the interviews this morning for 12 candidates for 5 C-level positions, and 10-minute interviews with a 5-minute in between. And it's fun to do these, because it's half the job is finding these, finding who the new people are going to be, but then the other half is teaching the existing leaders, because they're part of that interview team. It's a team of 8 people and 3 adults and then the 5 high school kids. It's teaching them the art of interviewing, how to ask the question, how to structure it, how to, think about the question, think about what you're asking up front. And we do a lot of coaching along the way. And sometimes a little bit of, no, don't say that. Don't ask that question.
Right.
That's not a question to ask. There's a different way to learn about that same thing. And so there's so much fun that we have through that. Today, it was, we rocked through 10 of those in 2.5 hours.
Wow. That's a tough stint, because you have to maintain a level of enthusiasm and energy for that 2.5 hours. That could get, that could get tiring.
But it's been fun, because, all of these guys went through the same experience a year ago to get into the positions that they were in. And so how much of it did they remember when we started doing the planning, and then through the process of taking it from the plan to, well, here's the questions, here's how we're going to structure it, and how much they remembered, but how much they forgot about the process. They didn't remember it until we had to walk them back. And that was one of the things that we coached them with, is go back and remember what it was like when you were sitting on the other side of that Zoom meeting, because we did those through Zoom calls too.
Right.
And, getting them to step back and take that different perspective, you could see the light bulb turn on. And that's such a satisfying feeling when you can see the learning actually take effect.
Right.
That's so rewarding.
Right. So what about you, Don? You have any mentorship experiences as of late?
Usually it's been ongoing. We do, since I instruct martial arts, we run into this all the time. What we like to see people do is we like to have a lot of the students, as they're coming up through, we put them into positions that they're able to instruct and they're able to teach. And we bring them along with, how do you instruct a class? How do you instruct students? Stuff like what we do. It's a little bit more, how do I say? It's a little bit more structured environment. It is definitely more on the military end of it. So it's kind of like, this is the way you're going to do it, and didn't ask any questions. It's a dictatorship, not a democracy. So, but watching a lot of the young people take, showing them how you do it and how you run a class and how you instruct people. There's so many different ways, and you have to understand what your students are doing, and you have to understand how they learn. And I will probe somebody as I'm going through, in class and stuff, just to see how they respond to different things. Some people, you have to step on them to get them going. Other people, just make, off the side, make a quick comment to them. You'll just look, lean in and say, do it this way, and be very quiet. Other ones, I'll bring them right out in class and say, this is what you're going to do. Didn't ask, do it. And, you have to really search and find how these people respond. There's a lot of people, people learn, they claim 17 different ways. I challenge that. I think it's a lot more than that.
So, I was involved in scouting for years, and, helping, when you're working with young people, especially in the teenage years, they're trying to find themselves, who they are and what they want to be. And sometimes they're frustrated because they want to get further faster than they can. And so, you really have to be, empathetic and try to figure out, where they are before you start giving them guidance, because otherwise you'll just be another adult that's, giving them crap and can't really relate to them. So I think you have to step back and take time. And you're involved in Scouts too, Don,
Yep.
and, as well as karate.
Yeah. In fact, I just had the opportunity to write a letter of recommendation for a young man that we've had in our school for his Eagle Scout. And it was, he's an incredible young man. He really is. He's definitely a leader. There's no doubt about that. And, comes from a large family and a family down there and trains, and the way he treats his siblings is just, it's great. He's a real good kid. Real proud of him. Yeah, it was great to write that letter today.
Yeah. So, Andy from the UK is with us today. How you doing today, Andy?
Yeah, I'm outstandingly mediocre. Thanks for asking, Joe.
Standing on your what?
I said I'm outstandingly mediocre.
Outstandingly mediocre. Okay, yeah.
No, it's my way of making sure that people are paying attention.
Yeah.
Most people, if you say, "How are you?" say, "Oh, I'm hellish." You go, "Oh, good," and walk on.
Yeah. So, how's things over there in the UK? You guys loosening up from the COVID stuff?
Loosening, but not fully loose. We can now meet other people. I mean, to meet other people in open spaces, and you can have 6 people from so many families, but we still have to wear masks. I've actually, myself, my partner, and my mother who lives with us, my mother's had 2 jabs, and myself and my partner have had 1 each. So still waiting for our second ones. But the country's starting to open up.
Awesome.
Traffic levels are getting back to the usual levels. So far so good.
Super. So what about you, Andy? Do you have any mentorship experiences?
I've got a question, I guess. Is it possible, do you think, to mentor somebody who works for you every day?
Oh, yeah.
Because I know I've certainly done some sort of leadership stuff and what I would consider mentorship. But like so many questions, that people will say, "Oh, you have to be detached from it," and sometimes you have to tell people what to do.
That's interesting that you say that, because to me, there's a little bit of a difference between mentorship and coaching.
Yeah.
And if it's something that is required, or expected on a daily basis. It's really, it converts from mentorship to coaching, I think. In fact, to me, the best mentors are stealth mentors. Like, I've had many stealth mentors of myself that didn't know they were mentors of me. And I've discovered, after the fact, that I've been the mentor of others and didn't know I was mentoring them. So I think that, to be a true mentor, you have to be a little bit detached from, the person and their circumstances, so that you can actually give them an external view. If you're too close, I think that turns into more of a coaching relationship. What do you think there, Mule and Don?
Well, there's been some times where I've had employees, direct reports, that it was much more coaching. It was true coaching. It was breaking it down. But there's been some times where they've come to me for non-work advice, or, hey, this is the situation I'm running into. And it's okay, take it back. And in those situations, I have kind of stepped back and said, all right, I'm not talking to you as your boss. All right. This is not a boss to subordinate conversation. And so I'm going to lay it out to you, because this is not something that I also don't consider this when I'm looking at your, your work performance or anything else. This is just some advice on how to deal with it.
Right.
And so when it's really a mentorship, if it's somebody who works for me, I make that separation. I make that very obvious, separation. But I agree with you also. There's lots of people that I didn't realize that I mentored until I left that, my last big corporate position. And I had all sorts of people come back and tell me, I learned so much from you. And they didn't work for me. They worked with me. They were in other departments, but they had observed and they learned a great deal. And so people watch you. And when they're watching you, you rub off on them. And so if that's something else to me, that why it's important in a leadership role to be as transparent as the situation calls for, and sometimes just a little bit more. You can go too far, but you need to be transparent on why you're doing things. This is the reason why we're going to do it, and making sure that people understand the why. But yeah, that mentorship thing, I keep reminding people, and I've been involved in programs where we're going to assign you somebody and you're going to be their mentor. And I said, no, thank you. That doesn't work. The mentee chooses who the mentor is, not the other way around. As a mentor, you make yourself available as a mentor. I mentor over 100 kids in this robotics team, but there's kids that do not talk to me. And all right, that's fine. I'm friendly with them. They may say hello. There's a certain number of kids on the team that come to me, and that we have those interactions and we have that trust. And so, the mentee chooses the mentor.
Right. So Andy, have you had any mentors in your life journey?
I've had a few, and I do agree with Mule when he says that you kind of look back afterwards and go, oh yeah, yeah, so that makes sense. And I've also been privileged enough to, again, as you guys have said, I've also been privileged enough to have people come back to me afterwards and say, oh, I really learned from you. And in fact, just recently I had a conversation with the ops manager of a company I dealt with on behalf of my client about 5 years ago, and he said, the stuff you showed us, we still use it on the machines, and they've not gone wrong. And that kind of swells your chest and your head in equal proportions.
Right.
So yeah, I've had a few coaches in my time, and I've coached a few people, but I've never sort of openly and outwardly had a mentor. Like I say, also I realized that people mentored me without me realizing.
Yeah. I remember this book by Dickens, Great Expectations, and the benevolent benefactor, and how this person in the background is, that Pip. Geez, I can't believe I remember all this, but Pip, did a good deed for him. This criminal before he was shipped off to Australia, the penal colony of Australia, where he made his fortune, and in turn looked after Pip. And it wasn't until Pip was well into his adult life that he discovered that this good deed done 20 years earlier has come back karmically and been of benefit to him. So it's just I guess the whole idea is that you just try to be cognizant and aware of your surroundings and those people that might need the helping hand, and just a little bit of confidence or a little bit of boost or a little bit of help to set them on a trajectory that they otherwise wouldn't have the opportunity to benefit from. So, wow, that was pretty deep, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That was a little too deep for
It got
too deep for the Outliers, and I need another beer here.
I
didn't think we were going to get Shakespeare in tonight.
Yeah, well, just yeah. So let's share. Doug, you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Awesome. How you doing today, Doug?
I'm doing great, and I loved your mentoring story from the current project, the project you're currently on, and it helped me connect a couple of dots because, right now, having retired almost 6 months ago, my entire professional involvement pretty much is with the mentoring that I'm doing. And I'm really enjoying it. I realize the real reason I'm enjoying it so much is because in my career, I've always gotten things done through the relationship way. And, when I heard your story about working with the supervisor, it made me realize that warmed me so much that I realized that's why I enjoy this mentoring so much, is because that's the way I did things a lot of times in my career. I like structure, and I always like things being very structured, but within the structure, I got things done, through relationships. But anyway, so my current mentoring, I'd like to start with a success story. And then I have another situation that I just discussed yesterday or the day before with someone, and I want to share that and maybe get your input for that. So anyway, I was mentoring this young gentleman that's still a student, and he had applied for 2 internships, and he was currently working part-time. And all 3 of these employers are household names, great opportunities, etc. And so what I've been doing is, when he applied for an internship, he would send me the job description. He would send me the LinkedIn profiles of the people that he was going to talk to, and I had a copy of his resume. So what I did was I looked at those 3 things: the job description, his resume, and the people he was going to talk to. And I looked for things that he can talk about, to connect his experience to the job description, indirectly connect him to the person talking to him, and then also identify things where there are gaps and help him prepare to discuss any gaps in case they came up. And then we would do mock interviews. And one of the jobs was a really, really fantastic internship. The hiring manager, when I looked at his LinkedIn profile, was a young man, but absolutely a rock star when I looked at his background. And the young gentleman actually got that position. So I was really happy about that. And also on the way, because he had these 3 things these 3 opportunities that he was juggling, his current employer said that, hey, I did get the approval to hire you full-time during the summer, but I need to know right away. Meanwhile, he hadn't heard back from one of the potential employers, and the other one told him that he would hear back by the end of the week. So he didn't know what to do and how to manage that. And he actually wanted to come clean with his current employer and say, well, I'm supposed to hear Friday if I have this other job and stuff. So I talked him off the ledge and said, no, you just have to buy time somehow. Let's talk about how you buy a little bit of time. First of all, it's after hours today, so you don't get back to him until tomorrow. So that's one way of buying time, et cetera. And then I had him contact the new employers and ask them, make sure that he would hear from them by the end of the week, et cetera. So I helped him through that. So anyway, that's a success story, and I feel pretty good about that because he's a very good kid, and now he's got a really good internship this summer.
Oh, so he took one of the offers?
Yeah, he accepted the offer. He accepted the offer. He got the offer for the job that he really wanted. That Friday, his boss wanted an answer Wednesday night if he was going to work there this summer or not, for his current company. And he was supposed to hear about the other job on Friday. So I had him like just kind of not give a response to his current employer until midday Thursday. And it was kind of like, non-committal, but like he'd be eager to work there. And I had him reach out to one of the potential employers, well, both actually, but the one that was supposed to get back to him on Friday, and ask them if they were definitely going to have a decision by Friday, to show that he was very eager, because it's easy to understand that HR isn't there, so they postpone it till Monday or whatever. So I had him do that, and it all worked out fine.
Yeah, super. Well, that's super. What about the other one?
Yeah. So I have a new mentee. So remember, I made these contacts. I gave an Apex presentation and offered to talk to anybody that wanted any advice. And I had about 24 people connect with me through LinkedIn. And with 78 people on the call, I was really surprised that more didn't connect with me. They didn't have to ask for my help. But, it just told me that a lot of people, especially the younger people, don't know how to work the system, especially for those of us in our, the back 9 of our career. We go back to the time where if you wanted to stay in touch with somebody, it was either phone calls or letter writing. And it's so easy these days that I was really surprised I didn't have more connections. But anyway, so a few people reached out to me, a couple dozen connected, and several said that they might want my help in the future. And I was having this so much fun that I reached back out to the ones that said they might need my help and encouraged them to contact me. So I was working with one woman this week, and she's looking for a job. She's out of work. She lost her job and got a nice severance going into COVID, and then didn't do much. So she's been out of work for a little over a year. And the issue she has, or she's asking me to help her with, is on her resume, she doesn't want to show the decades of experience she has because she doesn't want to show her age. So, I talked to her about having a functional resume instead of a chronological resume. And then, in fact, that's what I did many years ago when I didn't want to show my age. The first part of my career I spent in widget and making and assembly, and then I got into food. So I used the functional resume for the first part of my career and then went into the chronological. But she's had all CPG experience, and she's got over 30 years doing a lot of the similar things for 3 different companies that are all household names. And I'm just wondering what you guys might do with her resume in order not to show that she's, in her late 50s or whatever it is.
That's really interesting. That, me personally, I like hiring people that have, had longer careers. It depends, I guess, on the position being held, but or being sought. But to me, the experience is almost invaluable. I mean, the project we're working on, I got a little bit of gray hair, as you can probably tell. And, we could go out into the shop floor and just see things instantaneously versus people that have lesser experience. So, I think it was Warren Buffett that said, price is what you pay, value is what you get. And, even a person that's in their 50s, I'm in my 50s, right? But even a person in their 50s, has 10 years. And if you look at the average CV, okay, most people today don't have 10 years at a company. Mm-hmm. It just doesn't happen. So what's it matter if you're, 55 or 60 or whatever it is, you're still going to be that person that's only going to be there for 5 years, period. So I don't understand the age thing.
I think one of the issues, and it's good because I hadn't realized this, is she hasn't really moved up the ladder for quite some time. But the sense I get is she's a really solid performer. And one thing about companies these days, they don't want somebody coming in and just sitting in a spot and doing the same job, even if they're doing it really well for any length of time, because you're blocking other people from moving through the organization. So maybe that's it. Maybe it's that she's got this experience and at the level she's at has been kind of stagnant for many years. And I'm thinking out loud right now, but maybe that's what what people see, because I first heard this, I don't know, probably 15 or 20 years ago, when one of the companies I worked for had a group of packaging engineers that were absolutely fantastic, guys that had been doing the same job, for 20 years. And then we were bought by another company and they wanted them all to switch jobs to let other people have them. And I was like, I just couldn't believe it. I'd be sure bring in some young people so they can learn. But, we've got a bunch of guys that solve all our packaging problems. Let's not move them.
The Peter principle is something. The Peter principle is something that kicks into mind when I hear that.
I was thinking the exact same. I was thinking the precise exact thing, Mule.
Yeah, I'm sorry to cut you off, Doug, but it was just something that just struck me is that, you force people, companies will force people into promotions, and people will, I want the promotion. Well, they got promoted into something that they weren't competent. We had a process at Pep Boys where you made a decision, is this person promotable or are they at career? And it's the same thing that you see in military promotion. Some of the decisions of whether you make the promotion list or not is determinations by officers who you've reported to that did they think that you were promotable or not. And there are times where people get to what I consider to be, that's the career level that you're at. Now, it doesn't mean that you're not valuable. Doesn't mean that you're not creating a value. You're more valuable doing this than you are stepping up to a position that you're going to not have the tools necessary to succeed. And having that conversation is a difficult conversation. I've had to do it. But at times, that's what you're doing that is the best for the company, but also best for the individual. And that's the approach
this
that
individual
I take.
isn't looking to move up. She just wants to find a job being a performer like she used to be. And I'm thinking that I think maybe these that companies are seeing her age as as detrimental. For a person of that level, they're more eager to get somebody that's junior and going to move up the ladder. But that may be.
I think you're right with the, don't do the chronological, do the positional, but also it's highlight the value that you created in doing the positions and doing the jobs and performing the function. Highlight the value that she created. Really highlight that, and then also almost all these resumes now are getting read by computers, and they're applying AI logic to it. Any of the big companies are doing that. And so it gets back to also what are the functional terms that you want to make sure those keywords are in the body of the resume. I worked with somebody a couple of weeks ago that, it was, let's talk about the value that you created. And then also you're leaving out important keywords that are going to trigger these AI apps. And let's make sure that those are in place.
Yeah, that's a great point. The other thing is something that resonated with me when I talked to her is she said things like, well, I wasn't the team leader. I was just on the team contributing. And that's something you have to highlight, even though you weren't the team leader. Maybe you're not taking all the credit, but take the credit for what you actually contributed.
Yeah, leadership without
just one
title.
last comment.
It's kind of leadership without title.
Yeah, that's good. Mule, when you mentioned this promotion and Peter principle, et cetera, one of the best companies I worked for, I worked for them because we had been acquired. But when I was in their actually corporate headquarters, one of the first things I noticed was whenever anybody got moved or anybody got promoted, everybody that knew them and knew the position said, boy, that makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. Oh, good for them. They're going to be good at that. And I thought, boy, usually a lot of companies I worked for, when somebody got promoted, people walked around shaking their head. Now I'm working for a company that when somebody gets promoted, everybody says, oh, that's great. That's going to work well. And that really left a mark on me. And I said, boy, this is the company you want to work for.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So, I was thinking about the Peter principle and the resume. And I think that what you want to make sure of is that this person is talking about the value. And I think Mule had mentioned it, the value that they drove to the organization. And it's also important not to talk in the terms of dollars and cents, but percentages. So it's scalable. Like if I say I drove $10 million worth of value to the company, and the company I'm applying to is only got $10 million worth of revenue, they're going to think that I'm too big. Okay. Mm-hmm. Or if I'm going to a company like Chevron or Exxon, they might think $10 million is too small. So it's important, I think, to speak in terms of percentages. And it also reminds me of being a manager, or I managed like a dozen people or 24 people or whatever it is, doesn't make a big mark on a CV as a standout item. I'll give you an example. I was when I was in university, a friend of mine after the summer said that we were all talking about our summer jobs, and he said, "Yeah, I had a job where I had thousands of people under me." And I was pretty impressed. I said, "What were you doing?" He says, "I was cutting grass at the graveyard." And and so it's all about how you spin, how you spin your role too.
Perception versus reality.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
So that's great. I think that she also might be too fixated on her age. Okay. And, if you think you have a weakness, you have a tendency to amplify it by trying to conceal it. I think it was Reagan. Wasn't it Reagan when he was in a debate against Walter Mondale, rebutted to Walter that he would not let
Hold his age. He won't hold his age against him.
Yeah, his lack of experience, his age and lack of experience against him.
Yeah.
To great howls, of course, to the audience. So
Mondale laughed too.
Yeah, Mondale laughed. Yeah. So that's great.
Youth and inexperience.
Youth and experience. Yeah, I won't let my opponent's youth and inexperience be an issue in this election. Yeah, that was awesome. So we have another person from the EU, and almost regular now, with us today, don't we?
Yeah, we do. Esther is out there somewhere.
Yeah, she's out there in the ether.
Hi.
Hey.
Can you hear me well?
Yes, we can.
Okay, wonderful. Here today is bank holiday in Sweden. It's very, very sunny indoors,
Awesome.
at least. Yeah, it's just like the photo you're seeing. It's just like that. The sun is brightening the whole living room here. It's really beautiful.
That's
Yes.
And your days are getting pretty long there, aren't they?
Indeed. I mean, now at 5 o'clock is daylight until what is it? Maybe 7:38. So in the summer it will be maybe until 10.
Wow, that's great.
And I'm in the south, so it's in the north is like all day long sun and daylight.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry, you guys are talking about heavy stuff, and I'm talking about the weather. How boring! And I just wanted to make a comment about this. There's a few things I want to say. Something. I don't really have a lot to say really about mentoring. But I think we were talking about this last time, and I think it's very important to support each other, as we were talking last time. How people, usually we seek for this mentor to support us logically, but it's important also that in the job everybody supports each other. I think that's a kind of maybe lighter mentoring that we can do at work regularly with people, and see that we are all, in the same boat and not just fighting against each other, as it seems to be so much, or it has been in the past at least. But I just wanted to say, sorry, what do you want to say?
No, I was just going to say, but your career, your profession right now is all about, helping people be the best that they can. Is that not correct?
Well, yeah, maybe. I mean, I have always been one of these people who people come to whenever they need some kind of advice, or so I think that we all have this kind of different types of skills, and then mine is about really bringing a little bit of understanding to everybody. Has got a different life, and everybody has got a different journey, and there is a lot of. I was just talking to a very nice girl who is suffering a little bit, and she's struggling because everybody comes from a different culture, so everybody has got their have to kind of made up in society according to the culture and the family, and then if it's not working like that, they think they're a failure. So it's not easy to make it in life, I think, and then after that, I think then we were talking about how things are becoming now at work, with how difficult it is for different people because of age, or because of they maybe don't have exactly the right experience, or there is so many barriers that everything really for me nowadays is very much about knowing the right people who can help you to overcome different situations in life. Because yes, we might see all this in courses or in books or in so many things, but when we talk to precise people about our lives, then we have this kind of everybody can bring their own types of understanding, and everybody can chip in some kind of value to that person. So otherwise, you might be really much stuck into your own perception of life, and then when somebody comes and says, oh well, what about taking a look at this or seeing life like that. So it is very important nowadays more than ever that technology is becoming so prominent in our lives that we have even stronger networks. And mentoring, for sure. Mentoring is essential, and supporting each other. So I just wanted to make this comment about AI apps or a lot of companies now. I think in the US is quite strong about starting to use this AI, I don't know, programmings or programs or whatever that is. But I'm just kind of thinking, is this really going to help us to get into the best job in the future? Or is this going to become yet again another barrier? Because if AI is just going to look at our experience and it's not going to look at how we are as people, how we communicate, our soft skills, our emotional intelligence, even our spiritual intelligence in some jobs where we need to relate to humans, then it's going to become maybe another barrier. So it's when actually maybe technology could become something that is going to go against us if we're not really aware or wary of how it's really helping us, or whether AI is making the decision of choosing that person, or if AI is just giving you like different types of data points for you to think about, but then ultimately is the HR person or the boss of that future employee who's going to decide on which person is going to take the job. And again, I don't think it should be just on the experience or because you really need to get on with somebody or have a good feeling about someone. And I don't think AI can really maybe understand this right now at this time, because AI is quite still raw, I would say, in our civilization. So yeah, Mule.
A lot of the applications out there, while they claim it's AI, it really isn't. What they're doing is they're filtering, and it filters based off of things that are in the resume, or maybe filtered based off of responses. A lot of this is now forced into you got to apply online and go through the website application process. And what I discovered when I had to deal with that in corporate land, very competent, very good people that I talked to that said, yeah, I applied, I went through it all. They never made it through. And I'd go to HR and go, why didn't they make it through? And HR would scratch their head and go, I don't know, the program just didn't pass them through to us. And so, I'm always concerned when anybody says, oh, we're going to apply AI to it. Well, all right. Was that AI written by a computer programmer with absolutely no experience with the reality of how to make the decision in the first place? If that's the case, then wrong person wrote the code and the code is wrong. And that's a concern that I have when I get told, oh yeah, we're going to apply AI to business processes. Okay, who wrote the code? And how was their process and what was their process? So I am fearful, and I'm convinced that a lot of these tools that have been used in HR actually filter the quality away.
Yeah, the project that I'm working on right now, they're hiring a lot of people, and they don't use AI. And for HR, I've always been vehemently against AI for all the reasons that we're talking about today. But seeing the steady stream of CVs that I've seen coming through the organization, I now have an appreciation for some application of AI in the process, because some of these CVs that are coming through definitely should not even be considered. Okay, whether it's a complete lack of experience, a complete lack of being able to construct a sentence, just like, a variety of reasons. But I think that we run the risk of setting the squelch a little bit too high. The squelch is like, if you remember old radios, you'd set a squelch to kill out the static and just get the true sound. And I think that AI is being inappropriately used or used in a suboptimal fashion by setting that squelch too high, because you run the risk of getting sifting out people that are otherwise, rock stars, but they're not going to sit there and game their resume for every submittal just to keep, just to meet the AI requirements.
Right.
And going back to Doug's earlier comments and discussion about networking, most people don't understand that you're going to get your next best position from your network. Okay, you have a good solid network. They will plow the road for you to try to make sure that you get a proper opportunity to state your case and vie for that position. And I think there's a lot to be said about maintaining and maintaining that network. So to Doug and who's still on board, of course, to Doug and the students that didn't reach out to you, certainly, not everybody's going to think that they need you, so that's fair enough. But there's also people that are hesitant because they're shy and they don't have the skill set yet to build and nurture a proper professional network. And I think that's going to be a disservice to them in the future.
Yeah, talking about the resume screening, the toughest position I ever filled was actually for a peer, and I was working as an internal consultant for a company, and we traveled all the time as a team, and we were searching for somebody to join our team, and we didn't have any trouble finding people that could do the job. We just couldn't find anybody that we wanted to eat 3 meals a day with. And, it was interesting that the group would interview somebody, then we'd go and we'd sit down and it'd be like, okay, do they have the skills? Yeah, they have the skills. You want to spend a week with them, on the road? No. And there's no way you're going to get to that. Yeah, I mean, you're eating 3 meals a day with somebody a lot of times, right? Yeah, I mean, you're basically in those positions. Sometimes you're with somebody, unless you're sleeping. And we came across so many candidates that could do the job, but just weren't going to fit into this fantastic team I was on. Right. And you're never going to get that without the personal interaction.
Right. And by the way, you might be sifting out people that could be great team fits, but they might lack a skill here or there which can easily be augmented or trained, and they're not even being considered because AI is kicking them out. And I just
right, yeah. Exactly.
Hire for attitude first, aptitude second.
Right. There's the project that we're working on right now. The owner has a great saying, and he's even got a little grid that he uses. If you've got the will, you can teach the skill. You know what I mean? And when he's evaluating a person on this graph, okay, you got along the horizontal, you have skill, and then the vertical, you have will. And, he's looking for the, upper right-hand quadrant, but he will take somebody with lesser skill that's got the will. And just, let's face it, whoever we're hiring, we're going to have to train them in the latest and greatest that we use, treat them in the way we use it here at this, business, and then fit into the corporate culture. And of course, culture is the most difficult match to make. I think it was Deming, or I think it was Deming that said, strategy or culture eats strategy for breakfast. And nothing could be more true, I believe.
Oh yeah.
So
I don't know. I thought it was Christensen.
Sorry.
That's all
Sorry,
right.
I was
Go
just
ahead,
saying. Sorry, Mule. I was just saying that's a beautiful attitude this project owner has, and I think if we were more like this person, the world would be so much better. And indeed, culture is very, very important. But once you are in a culture of people want to support you, then even if you don't think, oh, maybe these people are not really people I will maybe invest all my life with or spend 10 years working with, but at least if they want to support you, then it's just naturally you are going to give them back. If you give, you get something back. But
right.
if you're going to go into life just expecting that things are this kind of square game of how computers and machines see things is not going to work. And last thing I want to say also is this, that this is thing about the AI is working with this non-zero sum game. And at the moment, I believe. And well, no, is working with a zero sum game. And we ought to, yes, and we ought to move to the non-zero sum game. And yes. now this is the time to do it. This is the time to do it, because if we wait too long to think about this in 5-10 years time, when AI is so rooted in our societies, it's going to be pretty hard to change AI. And AI, remember this movie, this magnificent movie, 2001 Space Odyssey. This is where AI will take over us. And this is how it ended. This was a big warning to us. So we need to be very wary when we are doing our jobs and how we are impacting our networks, that we don't fall into the zero-sum game. This is very important.
Yeah,
I just wanted to say that.
At the end of the day, people work with people. People don't work with computers.
Right, they are a tool. Exactly.
Right. Now, maybe someday they'll be more anticipatory, and maybe can figure things out a little bit more and anticipate we'll call it subjective decision and response from a objective set of information and data. But we're not anywhere close to that right now. I'm not sure I would enjoy that kind of world anyway, because I kind of like a little bit of unpredictability. I mean, how boring would it be if everything was frickin' completely predictable? I mean, how boring.
Yeah.
That's one of the things that balances us as human beings. We do want things to be sure. Emotionally, we want some surety, but we also want variety. And so that's one of those ongoing balances. How predictable do you want things? Because it gets boring when it's predictable.
It's just like a relationship, isn't it? It's like being with the same person, and oh my God, it's again another day with my husband or my wife. It's the same thing. Getting up in the morning. What was the name of that movie? Like getting up every morning and every day was the same.
Oh, Groundhog Day.
Groundhog Day. That's one of the things that with the robotics team, you don't run into as much. They select to be there. The challenge is always be, how do you make it to where it's constantly engaging? Because the compensation that the kids are looking for is knowledge, but they're also looking for having fun. They're looking for the social aspect that comes from it, the friendships that they form, what they learn from it, and then also the leadership skills. And I think that you attract people for different reasons. And I think the best way to disincentivize good people from joining you is these strong black box filters that they don't see. I think that application of AI, and I think applications of, in a lot of ways, of AI, takes away the artistic element of selection. The art of management. Management is not a science; it's a freaking art.
Right. Very well said. Yeah. Very well said. And also, I mean, I think I want to have AI in my life. I want something to help me decide sometimes on difficult things. I think AI could be great. Now, the thing is, if we don't really adapt to those kind of changes, and then we're just the victims of AI. That is what is going to be dangerous. I mean, I want technology to make my life easier. I want AI to make my life easier. But if it is not, if it's going against us, this is the problem.
Or if it removes, some certain life experiences that are normally cherished, or at least cherished in retrospect. I mean, think about how we laugh about our the foibles of our past. The stupid decisions that we made in our past, we laugh about them. They're experiences that we learned from. And you take away that from, somebody else thinking for us, And, we're not going to have any really great stories to tell people in the future. Andy, you still there? You have some, the contribution or comments on any of this?
Yeah, quite a lot actually. And, this talk about sort of AI and CVs never coming near a human until we've cut it down to the sort of almost the last three. And I'm reminded of a cartoon I saw many years ago of an interviewer inviting, obviously somebody's coming in to be interviewed, and he shakes the guy's hand, and the little sort of speech bubble says, seems a bit clammy and a bit wet and what have you. Oh no, maybe he won't do for this role. And the guy in return, sort of obviously shaking the interviewer's hand, and his speech bubble saying, "Gosh, I hope he doesn't mind me being a little bit late. I was putting the fire out in the ground floor." So I just wonder how much we're missing by just going for keywords. And I sat in an interesting podcast webinar, and it's one that Guy's doing weekly at the moment, and it's called UK Manufacturing. And we had a guest week before last, an American guy who only employs autistic people, because basically his factory has processes which are complex enough that you can't automate them, but still repetitive enough. And he says he just hires autistic people because they're absolutely suited for the job. They will turn up on time, they take their holidays, they don't take sick days, they do the work that's put in front of them to a meticulous standard, and you know what? Happy days. And on the other hand, he talks about another company that he deals with who have something that's a bit more physical. So they actually take people with Downs because they tend to be more physical in their outlook. So I think just and I guess putting either of those examples through an AI system are not necessarily going to find that guy who's going to the guy or girl who's going to be ideal for either one of those roles.
Yeah. So I think that we have a lot more to learn about AI before I think we should relinquish the reins to get a high performing organization that's collaborative, that is not afraid to be innovative, make tough decisions, fail small, fail fast, learn and move on. So
yeah,
super.
You learn from the mistakes. Your own mistakes provide you the most powerful lessons, followed by the bloody mistakes from some of those that you care about.
Yeah. And it makes for the greatest stories, man. They
do.
I'll tell you what, the best stories I have are, where I made stupid decisions, and, I'm looking forward to having more stories in the future.
Yeah.
Yeah, really. Taking out the human factor in a lot of this stuff is, to me, it's troubling because it's, there's nothing better than, interacting with people and talking with people face to face. I mean, if you have somebody, a computer program, obviously you want, something to make your life a little bit easier. Every day I'll sit there 2 or 3 times saying, why does things have to be so hard? But to have a computer do it is to me, it's kind of scary. It's one of those deals where it's like, I'd rather see something trust but verify.
Yeah. Well, my father was a lead engineer at IBM. And when it came to management, he would say management would be great if it wasn't for the people problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I think that we had a great show. What do you think?
I think so. This was another excellent conversation. I don't think that we wasted anybody's time with this. Although we didn't talk about the beer, we did enjoy watching the beer get consumed.
That's right.
And I enjoyed consuming it.
That's
right.
I
bet you did. I bet you did.
But it wasn't homebrewed. It wasn't homebrewed. It was store bought. But
it was store bought.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, my kids holding down the shop right now while I'm down here. And I just want to say I brewed what they call a Kentucky Common. And he had to send me pictures of it. And I says, you are going to bottle some of this up for me when I come back, right?
Well, super.
Yeah, we'll see if he did that.
Yeah.
You know, you're there in the backyard of one of my clients. That's Cigar City over in Tampa. And so High Lie and Florida Cracker and a few of the other wonderful delectables that are available out there. So
yeah, we went to a cigar shop last night, and it was like thousands of different types of cigars, and we had something a little. I strayed from the reservation. I went with my Romeo and Juliet. I usually go with my Romeo and Juliets, and I strayed from the reservation. We sat outside. I had a double bourbon, and he had a double scotch, and it was a nice way to end the week.
Wow. Yeah. Well, I'm a little bit envious of that because my week hasn't ended yet. So out to the shop that I'll go because I've got 30 pieces of aluminum to make confetti out of. Lots of man glitter getting made in the shop this afternoon. Yeah.
Nice.
So. Well, you guys have wasted another hour listening to us, but actually probably not a waste at all. High value today. I just don't drive like my brother, please.
And whatever you do, don't drive like my brother.
You have been listening to another episode of the Outliers Inn with your hosts, Joseph Paris and David Schneider. This program is produced by the Operational Excellence Society and sponsored by Zonatech Consulting Group International.